President Trump stood up for JD Vance and got his revenge on ABC News. In case you missed it, this past weekend, George Stephanopoulos accused JD Vance of refusing to answer the question. Of course, that was a lie because the very first words out of JD Vance's mouth directly answered George's question. And so as, JD attempted to push back and explain and call George out on all of this, ABC News decided to cut his mic and cut straight to commercial break. Well, if that's how they're going to treat Trump's vice president, it's no wonder that President Trump himself had this reaction in the White House.
ABC fake news.
Brian, first of all, congratulations.
I don't take questions from ABC fake news. After what you did with Stephonopoulos to the vice president of the United States, I don't take questions from ABC fake news. Brian, go ahead.
Yes.
Talk about a vicious comeback. I love it. And it also goes against everything the press says. Oh, President Trump is only selfish. He doesn't care about anyone else. He's only looking after his own interests. Well, here, obviously, you see him standing up for JD Vance and pointing out the fact that he was treated unfairly. And, it's not just the fact that they cut away. That was bad enough. They cut off the microphone and then they lied to his face when JD had just literally answered the question. Oh, you didn't answer the question. What are you talking about? It's right there on videotape. You just gotta love to see it. And I thought that was a great moment. It wasn't just that moment, though. There was a lot of drama going on today. Obviously, what happened yesterday, a historic day in the Middle East. President Trump was able to broker that peace deal, get the hostages released from Israel. But, a few months ago, Alyssa Farah of ABC's The View, she made this pledge. Oh, if President Trump is actually going to pull this off, because, the Democrats, they claimed, oh, President Trump, he's going to cause World War III. Oh, President Trump, he knows nothing about foreign policy. He was a joke, not just in 2016, but even now they think he's a joke. And so Alyssa Farah said, well, if President Trump can actually do this, I'm going to wear a red MAGA hat on The View, and I'm just going to eat my own words and eat a slice of humble pie. Of course, today happened. She was not wearing a red MAGA hat on The View, even though President Trump did exactly what the left claimed he couldn't do. Trump was asked to respond about that, and he actually told a story about Alyssa Farah that, hey, maybe not everyone knows.
Show and say thank you for doing it. Your response.
Well, did she put the hat on?
Well, she hasn't got the hat yet.
Who is it? Which one?
Alyssa Farah.
Okay. Well, she used to work for me. So she used to work here. I'll tell you about Alyssa. She worked here. She gave me the most beautiful letter when, the administration, the time came up, the election was rigged. I left. She gave me the most beautiful letter you've ever seen. I was a great president. What a great job. Some of the letters have been quoted. This is Alyssa, who I never thought was very outstanding. I figured she would not make it. And she didn't have a big role here either. And then we had January 6th. And she left after that or before that, but she gave me the most beautiful letters. And then even months after she left, and while we weren't here any longer, she sent another letter, glowing letter, beautiful letter. And then she got hired by The View, and they gave her a couple of bucks, and she changed her view very quickly. I never thought she'd make it. Never thought she had what it took in any way. You know what that means. But she's on The View. But it just shows what a fraud The View is, because this woman gave me letters and statements. She said I was the greatest president in her lifetime. Now, she's not that old, so I didn't consider it a great compliment, but I've had better.
Can we send her a hat?
Well, recently I've had the greatest president of them all. I like that much better.
He's the greatest
President.
Does that include Washington and Lincoln? Yes, sir, it does. I said I like that president. So I think she's a joke.
So there you can obviously see it was a very busy day at the White House. And in the second half of this video, we're going to dissect and go over one of the more controversial parts of the entire presser and really dive deep into that. But no matter what you think about President Trump, there is no denying he is the most accessible president we've had in the modern era, especially coming, back to back compared to Joe Biden. That's part of the reason why it feels like we're just drinking from a fire hose of news. Joe Biden, his administration, not only were, they were asleep at the wheel, but they were so hidden from the press and everything was manufactured. It was all choreographed. And, it was just basically state-run media at that point. Compare that to President Trump, where he's making himself accessible and just answering questions. He'll have those toughs with news reporters like ABC News, but generally he's willing to engage in that back and forth and really make sure that reporters get their questions answered. Well, even on CNN, they're giving him credit where credit is due, and they had a panel doing a whole compare and contrast between President Trump and the average Democrat president.
Another comment that the president made on his way to Israel aboard Air Force One. He was asked if the ceasefire deal will help him get into heaven, which is, I got to say, I've been in the press pool. It is a unique question to ask a president of the United States. However, his response was also unique. Take a listen.
I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly in Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven.
Look, as somebody else who may have a hard time with this same topic, I would just say that it's really interesting when you hear him say this because it makes him a regular guy.
It definitely
Democrat,
does.
it really makes me upset because folks flip it, making, what do you say, lie to yourself. I do that a lot. Other folks, he's just been a regular person going, look, I've made a lot of mistakes. Y'all have all covered me and pulled out everything I've ever done in my life, so maybe I'm not going to have a straight shot all the way to heaven. It makes him really, really like a regular folks, and as a Democrat, it makes me hate it.
I think Chuck is 100% correct. I mean, like my grandfather used to say, when people say, I'm a Christian, he said, wow, you've already accomplished it. It's a lifelong journey. We're all imperfect. The president recognized that. And to Chuck's point, for regular people, they say, hell, I don't know if I'm going to get to heaven, but I'm certainly trying every single day. It's relatable. It's why people like him.
Yeah. I mean, when you read it versus when you listen to him say it, which is this is an important
the body
component
language
of covering this president is don't just read it, listen to and watch how he's actually saying it. I mean, honestly, there's like a combination of the humor, the quippiness, but also like a self-awareness about like, it's a little presumptuous to be like, you know what? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to go.
You've never seen a Democrat speak that freely because our consultants and lawyers would have a field day. They'd be like, oh, it's over. Like, we've got to unbutton the tie a little bit and be really regular and talk to folks like me and my boys were talking to each other this weekend. Democrat, independent, Republican. That's what people want to hear.
Exactly. I agree with pretty much everything he said right there, especially at the very end. Now, it's funny that on CNN, you would think, being a news network, they would realize where that question and where his answer came from. They acted, when they were teeing up the whole segment, they acted as if it came out of nowhere. But I actually covered this a few weeks ago because President Trump has been talking about this and whether or not he believes he can get into heaven. So it's not a new conversation for him. And as many of you pointed out in the comments, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. That, having had the assassination attempts on his life, literally being grazed by a bullet, I think when you go through something like that, it will force you, not just because of your age, but in that specific situation, it will really force you to deal and wrestle with your own mortality and start thinking about life beyond life here on Earth. Well, like I said, we're going to save the most controversial moment of that presser for this second half of the video. And in case you haven't heard, all of the major news outlets have basically signed a joint statement rejecting new rules from the Pentagon. And yes, that even includes Fox News. But before we get into that, I would like to acknowledge the members of today's Governor's Club, Helga Shabalaba Ding Dong. I have to say that twice. And she did, give super thanks on 2 videos. So Helga Shabalaba Ding Dong, Joanne and Alyssa, super sweet, a mother and daughter duo who both watch the channel. Bob, Jenda Minoru, I have a response for you. MCs, MDT New, Masta Fakamos, Greg Anderson, and Dr. K as people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. I am so grateful that you're here and that you enjoy the videos. Jenda Minoru, hey, it's okay. Rachmaninoff is really difficult. He basically said, hey, I think Rachmaninoff's a little over my head. I prefer, simple melodies and easier chord progressions. But, as the finals, assuming I'm able to make it to the finals for both of the piano compositions or competitions come closer, my intention is to, maybe do 2 or 3 minute, music lessons at the end of the videos, just for people who want, to learn more about the piece and see what I've been working on and, explain, what to listen for and then actually play it for y'all. So maybe something to look forward to for those of you who like music. And in my last video, by the way, I can't remember it was my last video or 2 videos ago. But when I shared the piano clip, a lot of people have been asking, and by the way, this is news for a lot of the new subscribers, but last year we had like a sing-along for the holidays. I basically took requests live for about 2 hours, and we're going to do that again this year. And this year, I have a special twist that will actually involve all of you and potentially a virtual choir from anyone in the audience who wants to participate. So news on that coming soon in the coming weeks. Well, there was a joint statement issued from ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox News, and NBC. Today, we join virtually every other news organization in declining to agree to the Pentagon's new requirements, which would restrict journalists' ability to keep the nation and the world informed of important national security issues. The policy is without precedent and threatens core journalistic protections. We will continue to cover the U.S. military, as each of our organizations has done for many decades, upholding the principles of a free and independent press. Now, part of the reason why the Pentagon is releasing new rules is actually because of the leaks that have happened. And by the way, the leaks don't just happen under this administration. It's been every administration, though, of course, under Joe Biden, we all know what the media did. They could have leaked a lot of information, but they chose to sit on it because they wanted to protect Joe Biden and everyone around him. Well, that statement today didn't come out of nowhere. This has been building for a few weeks. This is what Pete Hegseth told Fox News just last month.
Our own civilians who can never be party to leaking. We're setting clear rules at the Pentagon. We're not playing games. We're not allowing everybody to roam around the building. You know, that was the policy before, Peter. If you were a Pentagon reporter, you could just walk around the building. No badge, no escort, no nothing. Walk into offices, talk to anybody. Who knows where there's classified information. We're making the rules more like you might say the White House. Can you roam the White House wherever you want?
Typically not without getting a Secret Service guy up in my grill.
So we're just normalizing it. Yes, you can be in the press area, briefing room, but if you want to move around the building, you're going to have a badge. It's going to be clear. You're going to be escorted when you do so, and we have expectation that you're not soliciting classified or sensitive information. I think the American people see things like that as absolute common sense. The Pentagon press corps can squeal all they want. We're taking these things seriously. They can report. They just need to make sure they're following rules.
Well, after the media released that joint press release, Pete Hegseth decided to respond on X, and he posted this: Pentagon access is a privilege, not a right. So here is the Department of War press credentialing for dummies. Number 1, press no longer roams free. Number 2, press must wear visible badge. And number 3, credentialed press no longer permitted to solicit criminal acts. Done. Pentagon has now the same rules as every U.S. military installation. So if it were just that, I would agree with it 100%. Now, I believe the issue here is actually that third check mark. I 100% agree with press no longer roams free. Press must wear a visible badge. And I agree with what Pete Hegseth wrote here, assuming that that's actually what are in the new rules, no longer permitted to solicit criminal acts. For example, leaking unclassified documents and information is a criminal act. But there's a lot of debate about what that third check mark actually is in the rules, because based on what I'm reading online, I've done my research, and in case I missed something, feel free to correct me down in the comments below, but I don't think the new rules have been made fully available online, so I can't fact check this myself. But according to Politico, an initial memo to reporters read that, quote, information must be approved for public release by an appropriate authorizing official before it is released, even if unclassified. Now, if that is the case, and it is important to note that that was the initial draft, because this, memo and the new rules from my research, because it's not available, I don't know whether it's in the latest iteration. But if that's the case, then I understand why journalists and media outlets wouldn't want to sign this, because if you sign that and it has to be approved by a government official, what is the difference between you and state-run media at that point? I totally get that. The whole point of having a media isn't just to broadcast news and information and analysis, but it's also a form of checks and balances on the federal government, right? They're there as a watchdog. They're there to hold our leadership accountable. So if you're only going to publish things that are approved by a government official, can you imagine the next time there's a Democrat in office? If this happened under George W. Bush, and all information in regards to the war in Iraq had to be approved by the Pentagon. Do you think that, our opinion now of the war in Iraq would be what it is if the Bush administration had complete control over what the press was allowed to publish? I get the need to protect classified information and to prevent leaks and to make sure that, hey, yes, the Pentagon is secure. But for me, before I can say, oh, yep, I 100% support what you're doing, I just want more clarification on that third point. Again, I agree it should be wrong to solicit criminal acts, but if it's getting to that point of the verbiage from that memo of, well, information must be approved for public release by an appropriate authorizing official, personally, I can't stand behind that. As always, though, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So what are your thoughts on the press rules? Do you have more of my take where it's, hey, I support most of this, but I want clarification on that third point? Have you seen something that I've missed as I've been doing my research that would provide additional context? Or do you have a link to, an online document showing these new press rules? Feel free to leave that down in the comments below. It's not just good for me, but it's also good for everyone else reading the comments and watching the video. But I would love to know your thoughts on that in the comments. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.